Hey everybody. Okay, so I'm here to help you with how to write an introduction. We will be doing an essay for our Learning Goal 1 assessment. So the assessment is right here. Okay, if we look at it right there, I'll highlight it. So it says students will write a detailed essay. So that's going to include an introduction, body paragraphs, and a conclusion. The amount of body paragraphs is going to be up to you. So you will need to use specific examples and information gathered from class material to explain the cause and effect of the collapse of the dynastic system in China, which led to the establishment or creation of the Republic of China. So think about all the things that we've done that caused the dynasty to collapse. So think of all the examples, and we'll go through that in the lesson later on. Okay, so we're going to look at how to write an introduction. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to write a hook. Okay, and this is going to get the audience's attention. All right, and you also need to give a bit of historical background. Okay, so the historical background is right here. Okay, and we will look at specifically what you can do. So let's take a look at it. I'm going to scroll down here. And here's one that I did for a past learning goal question. So if you take a look, the first sentence is the hook. And what I did is I tried to use a couple literary devices. So what I did here, so let's draw. So I used drugs destroyed. Okay, so by using drugs destroyed, that's alliteration. So I highlighted the two D's there. Okay, so I repeated sounds. Here's me spelling. Good. Nice. Okay. And so you can keep these simple. Sometimes people use quotes, but you need to explain how those quotes are relevant. But I usually like to use imagery or give people something a little bit attention grabbing. Okay, all right. Then let's go back. Okay, go back to text mode. Then it tells you, okay, we want to give a historical background. So in this case, I'm going to talk about, or you will talk about, the dynastic system, how long did it last for, what were the characters of the dynasties, and then maybe some time, some dates when the dynastic system ends and the Republic of China begin. Okay, so remember 1911 being a key date that we need to know as far as when dynasties end. Okay, so here, since I wrote a different one, I started talking about opium's introduction into society, where it came from. So I talk about Turkey here, right there, okay? And I talk about, right here, the time of Socrates. There's another one. Okay, I also give some more background about when it was introduced, when smoking was introduced, and then that later leads to China. Okay, so right in this section here, if you read it, I give a historical background of opium and its introduction into China, because that gives the reader some understanding as to what has happened. Okay, now the final part, and it's probably the most important part, is that you need to have a thesis statement. So right here, okay? So I have a thesis statement. This should be clear, and you should definitely tell me what you're going to be arguing. Now, since we're just learning how to do these things, this is important. Use keywords from the focus question. When you develop your writing, you don't necessarily have to keep those keywords, but I don't want you to just simply repeat it. But use some of those keywords. So in this case, our keywords are dynastic system in China. Okay. There's another one. The establishment, which means to like the beginning, okay, of the Republic of China, okay, and don't forget collapse. And of course, what are the causes? What are the causes and the effects of these, of the collapse? Okay, so in this case, what is my thesis statement? I put, when the smoking opium was introduced, British seized the opportunity to use this highly in-demand product to achieve their goal of acquiring Chinese tea. When the British Empire introduced smuggled opium into China, it produced negative effects on Chinese society in the forms of social and political corruption. However, some Chinese benefited as a result from profiting from the sale of opium within China. So if I go back to my learning goal assessment, I'm going to talk about the negative and positive impact on Chinese civilization. Okay, so sometimes things aren't all bad. So in this case, let's use a couple colors. I used, so British introduced smuggled opium to China. It produced negative effects on Chinese society in the forms of social and political corruption. So social and political corruption would be a paragraph. And my positives would be the Chinese profiting or making money from the sale of opium. Let's use a different color for that. So in this case, I could have two body paragraphs. So I'll have my introduction, and I'll have a paragraph on the social and political corruption. These would be the negative effects or the negative impact. And then I would have a second body paragraph, and that would be about the positives, about how people profited and made money. Okay, and we're able to exchange trade such as tea in exchange for opium. Okay, so this is what I want you to do. I want you to think about a hook. What can you have for your hook? What are your topics going to be? So let's go over here. What are you going to focus on? How are you going to explain to me the collapse of the dynastic system in China? Okay, so what are the causes of that and the effects which led to the establishment of the Republic of China? So think about all those examples that we've created for our creative representation. Okay, don't forget to go over specifically about the body paragraphs. Body paragraph is like a little tiny essay in itself. So clear topic sentence. Okay, we want specific examples. Okay, and we want to explain those examples. So explain each example. Very important. Okay. And then finally, this is a new one. Have a linking sentence. So you want to wrap up your sentence, your paragraph with the last sentence. So while we wrap up that paragraph, we create a link or a connection to the next paragraph. So we can use while or other conjunctions, although, even though. So for example, I didn't write one for this one, but I could say that while opium use spread and created addiction amongst the peasant population in China, comma, it did provide some Chinese with a source of wealth due to the smuggling and trade of the illegal good of opium. Okay, and so then the next paragraph would be about the positive impacts and how people profited from opium. Okay, so just something like that. All right, and that's about it. So I want you to think about how you can write an introduction and start planning ahead for an introduction. What are your main ideas that you'll talk about? Think about the examples that you use. Think about how you will explain those examples. Good luck.